tap into your most original thinking, organize your ideas, and create the opportunities to launch your creative work. Unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson.
Well, welcome back, friends, to our podcast, Unlocking Your World of Creativity. And today we're going to go deeper, and we're challenged to go deeper in our creativity. Our guest today writes that the mind might tell us what a good idea is and come up with creative ideas, but the heart will tell us which ideas to explore and which ideas to pursue. My guest is Arnaud Saint-Paul. Arnaud, welcome to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Arnaud is a philanthropist, a philosopher, a heartful harmony teacher.
I hope that you really want to go deep.
Oh, we're going to go deep. We're challenged sometimes to go deep, aren't we? Why do we like to stay on the surface, Arnaud, and avoid the deepness?
I guess because it's so comfortable there, right? It's easy. I don't have to ask too many questions. I'm carried by the wave, so to speak. And therefore there is no discovery either, right? No curiosity and no creativity, therefore, as we are talking about that in that place, because it's all super comfortable. We want some edge somewhere to be able to create. Yeah.
And Arnaud, you've lived and studied and worked Southern California, now in France, and going back and forth. What are some of the global influences you've seen, or even cultural differences in this sort of thinking and creativity?
Wow. I mean, if we look at the advertising on TV in the US and in France, we have kind of a big gap between one and the other. There seems to be more originality in Europe compared with the US. But then again, in movies, the creativity is out there for sure in the US, big time. So it's probably also the audience that makes things different, right?
There you go.
So I wouldn't say, we're all humans. We all have a mind, a heart, an eye, and we all drive our lives through these three. So there's not that many differences either. Probably in the US, we're going to insist more on the mercantile aspects, while in Europe, we're going to look more at the brand and the cultural aspect, so to speak, in that context. But that's about it. In the end, we're all the humans.
There you go. Well, let's pick up on that consumerism thought for a second. And more entrepreneurs and more companies are trying to go beyond that transaction, that mercantilism that you just described, and explore what sort of social impact their company, their messaging are making. What is it about these times maybe that expand our creativity to more of the social impact, not just the financial impact?
Right. So I guess I'll try to answer your question. I'm not sure I'm going to 100% on it, but close in any case. I was discussing that just now, actually. For the past centuries, our societies have evolved and are continuing evolving from very masculine-driven values to more feminine ones. And we're seeing that in politics, in economy, in the social construct, in environment, in everything, where we start understanding and accepting that it is more about collaboration, the together we build, right? And instead of competition and scarcity, etc., and struggling. So we are going, at society level, so it's slow, but it is consistent and it happens every day a little bit more, where we see creation happening in a new way, where there is more balance between the feminine energy and the masculine energy, and where we may be creating more together than just one person going one route and then all the other follow. If not, you're dead, kind of paradigm. And we see that actually with movies nowadays. We have so many people involved to create an amazing movie in different type of technicians and many different, much more than before. So I guess that's one. I'm sure there are many others.
Well, you raise an interesting point about collaboration and teams working on things and partners working on things. I think there's this image of the single creative genius, in the basement toiling away on their own to create art. But I think there is more of a team and a collaborative approach these days.
Yeah, totally. And clearly, I mean, I've been working with a group of change makers, 60 of them on a boat on the Nile. And the job was to bring them harmony, to bring them into coherence. And we did that by helping them to balance the feminine and the masculine. So in other words, they were too much in the masculine, and we had to bring the whole group to a more feminine values. And then therefore they found coherence all of a sudden, the projects were able to work together. So it's a very interesting question, the one you ask, because finding such balance does foster creativity in a huge way. But for that to happen, we first need to consciously choose that balance.
I love that you brought up this word harmony. It's one that I wanted to ask you about. I see it, throughout your writing, and I've heard it on many of your talks. Many people in creativity and marketing and so forth talk about disruption and, tension and friction and all these words that that's going to ignite. You need friction to ignite creativity. But harmony, takes us in a whole different direction.
Yeah, and let's go deeper actually now. Okay, let's make it happen. The paradigm on which is based the premise of the Heartful Method is that we have this heart of ours, and if we listen to it intently, it can bring us the inspiration, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter. The message, in any case, that is to become, right? Meaning it may become part of my reality if I choose to. So in other words, we can apply that to creating a company or a marketing message, to take that example, or a campaign, right? So if we listen to it and are able to actually open to that, then all of a sudden things start to become simpler, because I receive that message and then I start to put, the details around it with my mind, because we have to as creators, right, to enrich a little bit the message. And then from there, we let the power of this new idea that was just seeded to blossom on its own. That's the best way to create, because it is really seated in the essence of who you are, and it can be then used to create more nuances, facets, etc., so that it applies to the different channels or whatever is the outcome that is needed, right? And that way because we already looked at which audience I want to talk to, etc., and then I open to myself, to my heart, and let that arise. And it's a sure hit all the time, because I am expressing my unique tone, the one that makes it me. And as a creator, I am expressing that, and then it flows into my world. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think, on this podcast, you're speaking to a lot of these change makers, certainly, creatives who want to make a difference. And you're really describing something that I think challenges us to say, it's not the external change necessarily that you start with. It's this internal change, isn't it?
It's never the external. The external, so you were talking about friction and all that earlier. These are the contrasts that are needed when you are always looking outside to see what is next and what am I missing, etc. But what you are really missing is the message inside, because that's the one that is the only true one, is the one that is inside, that is laying there waiting for you to listen to it. when you receive it, that's when things start to become magical, really, because not only you receive it and you start acting upon it, and then things start to flow in a new way that you did not expect. And therefore your vision starts to align with your vision faster than if you are continuing trying to create with friction and very mind related ways of creating, which is never very efficient at all.
Mm-hmm. And you've talked about acting upon. Many times we creatives, we have this self-doubt, or we have this comparison, we get stuck because we have the ideas, but we just don't act on them sometimes. Well, how can we use this inner energy to accelerate things?
So one, you could read my book called I, which is a journey of I towards itself, and there are many aspects related to that you could look into if you wanted to. But beyond that, I think the first thing is any creator has, in one way or another, at one point in time, acted upon something. I don't think there is any creator that hasn't done something, however small it can be. So maybe it is about realizing that and potentially give yourself the kudos according to that to start with. And so it may not be that strange to act upon that new idea. And if you feel it as a true idea coming from your heart when you are, listening to it, etc., you will have no doubt upon what you need to do next as well, because it is so much connected to your essence, right, of you as a human being, that you can't help it but have to be it and see it and see out there in the world, and so trust yourself to do any little step, doesn't matter, to take that first step and then the second one and then the second one, but just focus on one step, not two, just one.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about your own creative journey, you've been a serial entrepreneur in the areas of software and finance and these other social impact areas. You must have also felt these issues and these internal blocks. How did you overcome them in your own journey?
Well, that's why I wrote that book, because at some moments, yes, I felt, whether depressed may be a big word, but like not knowing where to go or how to move forward, etc., in developing my ideas. And therefore, I try to understand what does that mean to be resilient, to be persistent, to arise, to act. What does that mean from the I perspective or from the self perspective? And how can I use it in my day-to-day, these facets or these qualities? So that's why I wrote it, and hopefully it will help other people on their journey. I guess the best thing I could share is focusing on now and just doing one step, trusting that somehow the next step will be clearer afterwards, and that also trusting that somehow this whole thing will become a perfect dance, will actually unfold in the correct way. And if you look at your life in general, you can see that there are patterns, and these patterns are perfect. You've got a few years in your life, and you see how all these different events led to who you are now, and it led to it in a perfect way. You couldn't be anyone else than who you are thanks to these events. So same way, you could do one step and then another and then another. And once you've done 10 steps, all of a sudden you've got an amazing, you've done amazing things already and covered, a lot of fields, and you're amazing.
It's so interesting. A great perspective that instead of thinking all these 10 steps ahead of time, it's like a series of nows. Yes. What are you going to do now? Now, what are you going to do? Now, what are you?
Exactly.
Well, Arnaud, what about teaching this way of thinking? You were describing one of your groups and events, and experiences on a retreat, but
Yeah.
you have a sense of, you wanted to share this point of view and this method and teach
Yes.
others.
Yes.
How is that working for you now?
It is working slowly. So that's why we're doing a campaign on podcasts to gather more and more people around that. We have retreats on the Nile. We have, one-on-one guidance. And I am planning an online course as well to offer it to more people. The whole thing is to learn how we can live life from a place of trust, of peace, of balance, and where everything is flowing in harmony, in coherence with ourselves. And it is possible. I know it because I live it, and the people that I've been working with are doing the same. The question is, if you want to do it as well, it's up to each of us.
Paint the picture for us of the experience on the Nile. Give us a sense of how that retreat unfolds.
It's really, really amazing. It's 7 days on a boat, a luxury boat, one of these old boats with sailing boats but with like 14 cabins, and so we go on a daily basis. We have a qigong first, and then we work together on a specific theme that is related to the visit we're going to do in the afternoon. And so using the Heartful method as a baseline. And then we go on a VIP visit to a temple between Aswan and Luxor. And we have the temple closed for us, and we visit it. We have a ceremony there, and then we come back from it. And then at the end of the day, we have a breath work to close the day. Overall, each day is about a specific theme. And we gradually go towards opening more your heart. That's the end game. And so we do 7 temples actually. And it's each time you make one of the visits and the work we're doing on the boat, obviously, your vibration raises a little bit further. So you feel more present. So again, more in the now. And at the same time, you feel more balanced and at peace with yourself and many other aspects. And then you have the fireworks at the end when, it starts to anchor itself in you in a way that you cannot forget anymore because it is now part of you. It has always been, but it was not called for until now. And so each time is really a different experience for even the same person going twice to the same series of temples, different each time, because we go deeper again, so wherever you are, after one go, you will still go deeper because it's an infinite journey of feeling the depth of who you are and the creativity and creation that there is within. It's so amazing, so staggering, all that we have inside ourselves, and we usually don't use it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a terrific time. Fantastic program. Well, before we
Yeah.
go any further, we should let people know how to find out about that. How do we learn more about this retreat and about your work, Arnaud?
So about the work in general, the website is tapuat.com, tapuat.com, and it's a word coming from the Hopis that means eternal rebirth, and then about the retreat, I think the one that we have currently on the website is about to be sold out, but it's tapuat.com/Egypt.
Wonderful.
So very easy to find.
Well, we'll put those in the show notes too. Well, Arnaud, we've been talking about, sort of individuals and, how we can develop our inner thinking and creativity and consciousness. But let's elevate it a little bit as we close here to think about creative leadership, conscious leadership. How do we move from just being individual contributors to really creative leaders at a time when the world really needs better and more creative leaders?
I guess we will have to discuss a while about what a creative leader is. One thing that I realized recently, actually on the boats when we were with the 60 change makers, is that there is such an incredible power in finding coherence. Let me explain. Whether an individual or an organization, right? It's decentralized or not, or a company or a team, et cetera, a number of people, they all start from a state of cacophony most of the time. So if it's individually, I may have at first on my journey, many different Arnauds that are all doing their own music. And so it's a bit noisy. And the path towards more harmony and coherence is to bring about all these musicians and invite them to that symphony of ours, right? And the same happens with company. So if we tweak here and there, balancing the masculine and the feminine energy, inviting people to more trust with special exercises and so on, people start to be more in tune, be more coherent. And that's when solution starts to happen right away. It's quite instantaneous when you know where to, make the little tweaks here and there. And in the case of what happened on the boat, it was absolutely amazing, the different outcomes that happened, where the whole group was able to raise 10 times what they were expecting, and a little project who was going totally defeated started to be financed and now are super successful. All of a sudden, things start to put themselves together and blossom if we do it together. So not sure that it answers your question, but I was trying to do the best I could.
It does. It's wonderful. Well, my guest has been Arnaud Saint-Paul. Arnaud, great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and the energy that you brought. Folks, we've been talking about creativity, and certainly plenty of guests come on our program and talk about better ways to use our creative brain and our creative talents. So yes, the mind will come up with ideas, but as Arnaud said, our heart, our consciousness, our harmony, our ability to work with others and bring a whole different kind of consciousness can also elevate our creativity as individual players, but also as leaders. Arnaud, can't thank you enough for bringing this insight to us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I know we'll talk to you again soon. And listeners, you come back again for our next episode. We'll continue our around the world journeys. We've gone to France today to be with Arnaud, but we'll continue our journeys to talk to creative practitioners around the world about how they get inspired, how they organize their ideas, and most of all, how they gain the confidence and the connections to launch their work out into the world. So until next time, I'm Mark Stinson, and we're unlocking your world of creativity.
Unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This program was produced by BSB Media, creators of IntelliKey Leadership Stories, Unlocking Your World of Creativity, and thepeaceroom.love.
Hey, it's ALAURA Lovelight, and if you're enjoying Unlock Your World of Creativity, make sure to check out my new show, The ALAURA Show, on Roku and Amazon Fire TV.